Welcome back to another Titan Esports interview. This time we're looking into the Berserker League and the mid laner for Summit Esports, Stratos, Barretel. Barretel, thank you so much for joining me today, and how you feeling?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm feeling pretty darn good. Loving Titan, loving the league, loving my team, having a good old time. You know, we all feel the same way. I'm assuming solo queue. It's I think it's polar opposite from comp league. So being able to compete in a league that has a lot of integrity and really kind of puts your skills to the test it's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Recently, I've been playing, instead of solo queue, I've been playing flex queue with my friends who are now all of a sudden on their league era, which is a dream come true for me as someone who only plays this game in terms of competitive games. So it's just night and day, whether it's competitive, whether it's flex queue. It's just better than solo queue. I think this is something that is universally agreed upon. So I'm glad to hear off the rip that you're enjoying it. And for those who don't know who you are, give us a little bit of your amateur history, your history in Titan competing, and when you started playing League of Legends.
Yeah, so I'm an old goat, a boomer some would refer to as. I've been playing the game since it came out. It wouldn't be indicative of my rank, but never really taken the game too seriously until I was able to come across Summit Esports, the sponsor for my team. That's another league that I participate in, and kind of from there, I really kind of realized that the experience between that of solo queue versus a competitive like pre-made or draft league is again night and day, as we've already articulated. Titan has been something that we've kind of been branching out to, and Summit never really had pre-made teams before to opt in for leagues like Divinity or Berserker. So it's kind of just a really cool process for them to have, like tryout days and, team potential roster, scrim v scrim to see who makes the final roster to be put up into Titan Esports. And, I really do fully support Titan Esports as a whole. There are some other leagues out there that try to do the same thing in terms of having like pre-made teams come into the mix and compete. But I truthfully feel like, just based off my somewhat limited experience, Titan has a pretty good community here. People that, while they do throw around friendly banter from time to time, the main goal is to like kind of look inward and improve. And I think that's something we can all aspire to do.
It's something that over the last 2 weeks, when I've been interviewing a whole bunch of different people, everyone has echoed this sentiment of community building, improvement. Obviously, things are very competitive and banter is there,
sure,
but it usually never goes too far. It never becomes unfun with how competitive it gets. It really is a place where a lot of people feel like they can have a good time competing, hanging out with friends, all that good stuff. So that's awesome.
For sure.
A veteran in the game, don't worry, you are not the only one. I've interviewed a lot of people. I just did an interview 30 minutes ago, and my interviewee said they've been playing since 2010. So you are not the only one. You're not the only unk up in the core. There's a lot of people that are playing the game for a hot minute. Now, you said you found Summit Esports there, and obviously Summit Esports also runs their own Summit Esports League, or last to my knowledge, they did that. How did you come across Summit as kind of your entry into all of this?
Well, unfortunately, it's not a position that's paid the bills, but something I'm fortunate enough to have a relationship and connection with. I'd say 17 years now going. Wow. I've been fortunate enough to be kind of in the behind the scenes action for tournament organization here in the Treasure Valley where I'm in Idaho, and that definitely blossomed into an opportunity for a shoutcasting career with a local university, BSU to be specific. So since then, again, not a position that pays the bills, unfortunately, but from there I kind of generated and kept growing my shoutcasting career and those skills within that, and then was made aware of a community within the college itself that was just a bunch of League of Legends players that were not there for a scholarship but still like to play against each other, do in-houses, Saturday scrambles is what they called it, and it was pretty cool. And they I was wanting to develop my skills as a shoutcaster so I can provide the best product for my employer, BSU at the time. What better place to practice it than, in your own home turf, and really kind of fine tune those skills and really hone that edge as a shoutcaster. And it was really fun to get to know the people that were literally my neighbors, people that, I didn't really know a lot of people that played League of Legends besides my, personal friend group. So having kind of that community build from there blossomed into, a lot more people hearing about the club, if you will. It had eventually developed into, previous to Summit Esports, it was called La Liga, which they ran a snake draft league for quite some time, and then decided to kind of rebrand from there. And I've been fortunate enough to have my professional career within shoutcasting kind of blossom into something that I'm more affectionately a part of as like a day-to-day thing. I'm an active moderator in Summit Esports Discord now. We're working on trying to get some new things put together for a new season. It's a whole bunch of people that I've known for years now personally. So it's really just like a perfect marriage of a lot of different aspects of my life that I've been very fortunate to be a part of.
It's so incredible to hear these stories and the rich history that so many people have, like yourself, with esports, with different organizations, and to hear your stories of how certain kind of dominoes fell into place for you to get to where you are and build these awesome relationships and strengthen these communities, giving people places to play, places to connect, and connect like-minded individuals as well. It's so amazing to hear those stories, and thanks for sharing that. And now we'll move on to kind of you as a player now. You are a mid laner here. You're playing in the mid lane right now for Stratos in the Berserker League.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about your play style. I was doing some research beforehand. I saw you have some unique picks up your sleeve. You've been playing the Ahri. Sometimes you're whipping up the Seraphine mid, and other times you're going do and be 2019 mode and playing the Nautilus. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so ultimately speaking, I think my biggest strength as a player, in terms of what I can offer, besides the fact that I'm like very much agreed upon, any team member that I've been on a team with can vouch for this, in the sense that I'm like very much a high vibes kind of guy. I'm always boosting my teammates. I'm always the first person to be cheering them on. I'm usually the first one dead, so like might as well use my time in the gray screen to do a little bit of shoutcasting, maybe like pump up my teammates, But I generally try to keep the vibes up. I think that, despite maybe being down in gold, the one thing you have control over is how you react to that. And if you have yourself down in gold and down in mental, you're looking at a recipe for disaster. So I'm a big proponent on providing a huge amount of positive vibes for the team, trying to keep the laughs going, keep everyone focused, things like that. But beyond that, with my history in the game, playing for so long, I've kind of played everything to some extent. I would say that, and this is it won't come into play most likely unless we end up getting to playoffs and have to pull out something spicy, but I am a Shaco aficionado. If they have like the whole E4 cap for this particular league for Berserker, I would definitely put myself at like high emerald in Shaco performance alone. Again, not to worry about. Surely I won't draft it mid, because that would be insane. So that would maybe be the only champion that I would say like I have like maybe the skills to back it up, or maybe the confidence to. Beyond that though, I've always been like a huge proponent to be a facilitator for my team, if that makes sense. A lot of the times I've kind of put myself in draft leagues where they ask you for your main role, and I typically always put Phil, because I am confident in my ability to play at a certain level in every role. I have despite this is completely out of like the norm for what anyone would advise you to like climb solo queue, but I think that it's the most fun for me to have some picks in every role so I can fit into any team. Not a lot of teams would throw away the opportunity to have someone that's always trying to bring positive vibes and mentality, that PMA. But beyond that, I think that my my biggest boon, what I can offer to a team, is the fact that I'm a big facilitator. If you need me on a carry role, I'll do my best. But usually speaking, with the Nautilus, as you've seen, it typically ends up being something that not a lot of people know how to play against, which I find really funny. People go into trades into the Nautilus, and it's like super cattywampus for them, and you can see that they're like, why did he just do half my health bar and I only did like a quarter of his? He has no damage items. This can't be real. But yeah, I think more so than anything, my play style is one that tries to facilitate my teammates, make sure that they are given tools and resources for success. If that does end up meaning that what the biggest catalyst for their success is me like popping the hell off, then I'm happy to throw down the Ahri. I'm forcing my jungler to play Vi, and we're gonna do that combo, that fantastic tango that it is. But if it's, hey, we need crowd control, we drafted an enchanter support, we have a carry top laner, I'm looking Nautilus mid. I'm looking for something that can like really set up for plays and really help my team along the way. And it's not too specific to just that. It's just kind of that mentality of, okay, these are the pieces that we currently have. What do we need to fit that? And I'm happy to do whatever I need to help my team win.
Flexibility is always going to be of value to a team. I'm a little bit of a player where if it's solo queue and I'm auto-filled, I'm clicking the top right corner and probably not playing out that game. But you obviously you don't have those problems, and being able to be unpredictable as well in draft. You sound like a nightmare to draft against. What do we even ban? There's no point in even paying attention if you can play all these certain picks. And maybe you're also a bit of a Pink Ward fan as well, because he likes to play that Shaco solo lane action. Yeah. He's kind of the connoisseur of all that stuff. And
yeah, he's the godfather. I've learned a few tricks from him, and I definitely have the ability to implement them. Again, I surely hope that I don't have to draft Shaco mid, because it won't be I don't think it'll be very fun for the enemy team. But yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. If I pull bans, I think it's the funniest thing ever. Because you're kind of really reaching in the dark. Although I think recently, like as a powerhouse for like my mid pool, I really cranked down a lot of games on Aurora. And she's essentially like the mage shotgun version of Shaco. So I'm pretty apt at that.
Nice.
But who knows? I might have some picks that no one's ever seen me play so far in Titan.
Hey man, there's like 180 different champions in League of Legends. There's a lot of different things that a very creative player like yourself could pull out. And now we'll kind of shift gears towards your team itself. And here in Berserker, you guys are in Group A. You're sitting at a 2-3 record, so approaching that 500 record there. You're in 4th place. Now, obviously, you've had some wins under the belt, some losses under the belt. What's gone right for you guys as a team, and what's kind of gone wrong in something you guys might need to improve on?
I think ultimately speaking, I think it's a pretty safe mentality for every team to have, let alone just mine. I think Stratos initially kind of suffered from what most teams who are newly put together suffer from, and that's kind of, etching out and highlighting what your team's identity is, or if there is a team that has multiple identities, can we play strong side bottom, or is our carry the top laner? Having those kinds of things implemented and kind of worked towards as a similar mindset is something that we initially struggled with. But again, I think that's something that every team kind of goes through growing pains wise. Ultimately speaking, from that initial hesitant start, we did realize that was something that we need to quickly figure out in order for us to start pulling W's in our name. And I think, in the wins that we've had, we definitely showed that we have a firm identity on ways or a way that we can potentially win, through our strengths and kind of mitigating our weaknesses. But I do think that's something that we continue to work on, and something that we really need to hammer home, as we look to hopefully holding on to playoff contention. We really want to prove our sponsor, Summit Esports, correct in that this is a good roster for them to put forward and, represent their name in Titan. And we also want to provide the most competitive experience for our opponents going forward. We do have some specific things that we are working on. I won't get into too much great detail for fear of it being exploited. But I can assure you that if things go according to plan going forward into the kind of final, play-in or regular season weeks, Summit Esports Stratos is going to be a team to be reckoned with.
Keeping up with that theme of you keeping the vibes high, you've got the positive attitude going forward, even though you might not have, so far it may not have gone the way that you guys have envisioned, but you are still in a playoff spot. You're still looking forward with that positive attitude. And I think that is probably going to be your best recipe for success going forward. So I think that's great. We talked about kind of your team there. Now let's talk about you personally. This season in Titan Berserker, what are your goals for yourself as a player, whether it's communication, whether it's any new champions you want to pick up, if that's even possible for you? What are your personal goals for this split?
I think to be honest, I think I've kind of already accomplished it. Last season I didn't play mid lane before kind of split off from Divinity into Berserker. Kudos to Titan for having enough signups that it had to split off. That's incredible. I definitely felt like my role was one of that didn't have a lot of influence. I tried to play top lane, and my play style and my champ pool for top lane is one of like a very neutralizing aspect. I don't really play like Fiora, Camille, like these big hyper carries that can really just like have a spotlight on them, put resources into them, and kind of take off. And while for the most part, I don't think I really like suffered a lot of loss in lane. Being a neutralizer, not a lot of people give praise to that. Like, oh, congratulations, you didn't die, the thing you were supposed to do anyway. But it's like, okay, but they also drafted someone that was supposed to kill me and they couldn't. So that kind of thing didn't really bode well for my spotlight in the community. And that's not that I truthfully care what anyone outside of my team and my coaches feel about my performance and what I'm doing for the team. Those opinions are of little import to me. But I do think that with this recent change to mid lane, it is a role that has a lot of spotlight on it. It has a lot of attention drawn towards in terms of performance, because it's a pretty influential role on the outcome of a game. And I think that with me recently receiving an MVP in the in the kind of scrappy, fun aspected like weekly content that we have for Berserker, I think that's an accomplishment in and of itself, is to just get my name out there. And at the end of the day, I want to continue week in and week out to provide a pillar that my teammates can kind of rely on, both in terms of gameplay and execution, but in addition to that, also kind of mentality and vibes going forward. Because I think that with the losses that we've suffered, it's been my goal to make sure that we kind of bounce back more focused than we did going into the series that we lost. And I think that's going to be more so important as we hopefully look towards playoffs and continuing on in those. And it's going to take a lot more, I think, mental resiliency to proceed forward and really challenge these higher level teams.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear that you're aware and conscious of all of these things that you want to work on, these things that you're strong at when it comes to you as a player, when it comes to you as a teammate, and what needs to happen for you to get to the places that you want to be. You're thinking very in depth about this, and I think that's something that's going to be of value for any team that you're a part of. Now that we're about to wrap up this interview here, give any shout outs that you want to give. I'll open the floor to you now, to anyone you'd like before we close out.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately speaking, I do have obviously a pretty big shout out in terms of Summit Esports as a whole. You know, it was when it was La Liga, it was a lot more casual, and like I think the highest rank in the inception, if you will, the infancy of Summit Esports was like low diamond, and kind of since then it's exploded in terms of skill diversity, and through that, I truthfully think that with the patience and coaching of a lot of players that are like infinitely better than me, I've grown a lot as a player. You know, it still might not be indicative of solo queue because I won't talk about solo queue. I feel like it's not indicative of like a competitive player's ability. But yeah, big shout out to Summit Esports for providing me a platform for me to continually improve on myself as a player and as a competitive league teammate. Shout out to them. They're also looking for their own signups for season 7 coming up the beginning of August. So check it out if you're similar like me, an unk boomer who just wants to kind of have fun, but also like test their metal and see if they can get themselves to a better place in terms of understanding the game or understanding what they offer in terms of like a competitive team. Big shout out to Boise State University for giving me an in to the esports world as a whole. It's always something that I was interested in kind of growing up. You know, I was always kind of an avid gamer, and then kind of learning that people played video games competitively was always something intriguing to me, but I didn't really understand or know how to get my foot in the door. And, you know, since the wonderful opportunity that I've had with Boise State, I've been gifted a lot of other opportunities, both in terms of like this interview and, you know, being vouched for team rosters. You know, come 2 weeks from now, I'll be personally in San Antonio doing a shoutcasting event for the U.S. military. They're doing like a Marvel Rivals tournament, so shout out to USAA for that. And of course, beyond all else, though, shout out to Faris, of course, for throwing down the interview.
Hey man, thanks for the shout out. No problem. It's my pleasure being able to chat with so many people in the community throughout all the different leagues. It's been an absolute pleasure. And Barretel, good luck to you and the rest of the squad going forward in Berserker, and thanks so much for taking the time today.
Thank you as well. Bye, everybody.
That was Barretel of Summit Esports Stratos in the Titan Berserker League. That is going to do it for this interview today. There will be more all summer split long to come in the future. I'm Faris, showcaster here at Titan Esports. I'll see you in the next one.